Tomorrow night, the Brandywine School District referendum. 28 cents on $100. In the studio, we've got two longtime Brandywine 100 dads, school supporters, all that. We have Pat Wahl. And Pat, first off, we got to say you do have a lawsuit against the school. You were actually, against the district, rather. You were in the studio talking about that. We should get that out of the way right now. Go right ahead.
I have an axe to grind.
Okay. That's fair enough. But briefly...
And I also have a great deal of experience that not everyone has had.
Okay.
So take it for what it's worth.
Well, for what it's worth is that zero tolerance was enacted upon your son, and they got part of it thrown out. The rest of it you want thrown out so that it doesn't appear on something he has to put on his college application.
I have the same zero tolerance for constitutional violations.
Yeah.
That they do for theirs.
And the other is James Hanby, who is probably like ninth generation Delawarean. And I see you, on your mother's side, someone hid on the Kalmar nickel and snuck in here, right?
Yeah, on my grandmother's side.
Wait, we got to make sure we get a little more volume over there on James Hanby, please. Go right ahead.
Yes, on my grandmother's side.
Okay. And James, you are in favor of the referendum, and Pat, you are against the referendum, right?
Not only that, but I'm very uncomfortable disagreeing with James. If James, of course, is a product of the Brandywine School District, as I am, and if the Brandywine School District does half the job with my kids that they did with James Hanby, I will be thrilled. He's the single Delaware citizen that I admire the most. He's the most patriotic person I've ever met. I would, with the most integrity. So I hate being on a different side, and I'm hoping that real soon we can be on the same side.
James?
This would probably be a good time to announce my run for president of the United States.
No.
No.
That's good, because I don't have a candidate. I'm never
exactly. Pat's looking for candidate. I agree. This is Delaware. Pat and I know each other. He's my dentist. So I understand his positions, where he comes from. We have some fundamental differences in understanding the way that the district operates and the needs of the district going forward. And, that's where we are. That's where we find ourselves today, is discussing those differences. And, we walk out of here, we're still friends.
We both bleed Brandywine blue and white. We just have different approaches.
Yeah, it says something when you disagree with your dentist and you're still not afraid to have him drill in your mouth. So, first of all, let's get to Pat. Why say no on the referendum?
In short, something's wrong. That's my theme today. Something's wrong. And no matter what side you're on, whether you're for this referendum or against it, and I want nothing more than to support the referendum. All three of my children are in the Brandywine School District. All three of them are going to remain in the Brandywine School District. I'm a huge supporter of public schools. Let me say also, Concord High School, it's unbelievable. It's better than any private school. We had teachers come visit us over the summer before my middle son entered his freshman year this year. I can't say enough about it. If you want to see a well-run ship, visit Concord High School. So this is not about whether I like the district or I don't like it, or whether I'm staying or going. I'm going to be there forever, or until they kick me out, which they just might. But something's wrong.
Okay, how do you articulate something's wrong? What's wrong, you think?
For example, today, the Department of Education has repudiated its own data. The Department of Education is where we're pointed to get this data by the Brandywine School District for accurate facts and information. That is, for example, the Brandywine School District put out a document called Accurate Facts and Information regarding the May 17th referendum. Mm-hmm. It's actually a response to someone else, not to me. People think it's to me. It's not to me. But regardless, they repeatedly refer to the Department of Education data over and over in this document, as they do elsewhere, as the source for accurate factual information. Well, today, the Department of Education releases a letter and says, it turns out our data is all wrong. So, in other words, I was getting data from where I was supposed to. I did the calculations correctly, and now the school district says probably correctly that, well, that information was wrong. Okay, it's wrong because it's the Department of Education data. That's where we're supposed to go to get this information.
So you're talking about how many administrators are actually in the Brandywine School District, and you are working with a number of 89 administrators, comparing that to Indian River, which does better than Brandywine in some ways, and having 58 administrators. And they come back and say, well, actually, it looks like we were off by about 18. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, but it calls all the data into question. Also, I want to add this. I regret ever mentioning any standardized tests. They're awful. They mean nothing. It's not fair to use them district to district. It's difficult to compare districts because there's few measurements to do so. But I would rather abolish those standardized tests or at least have all the kids opt out.
All right, let's get James. James, what do you want to say about this data? I saw this letter as well from the Department of Education, and it's to Mark Holodick, the superintendent, who's going to be on this program in about an hour without you guys. I just want to make sure that's perfectly clear.
He doesn't want to see me?
He don't want to see either one of you guys. And, in fact, he wasn't too happy about seeing me either. But he will take phone calls from folks as well, as long as you guys aren't the ones making the phone calls, because you're going to have your time to hammer this out. And, yes, we got this letter from Stephen Godowski at the Department of Education dated today saying that...
The day before an election.
As a result of our review, we determined that 18 positions should not have been... And it actually didn't print the whole letter. But
I have the letter here, Rick. Would you like me to read that?
Yeah, go ahead. Should not have been
included in the Brandywine School District as administrators. These positions are not within the Brandywine School District and should not be reported as such. And then it goes on, actually, the total is 30 because it goes on to talk about 3 specialists on teacher contracts and 9 IT technician positions that are in their data as administrators, and they are not administrators.
They should be there as consultants.
They acknowledge that is incorrect, and so we should have a 59 instead of 89. And you know, I'm here as somebody who's the chair of the referendum committee and as chair of the finance committee, but you know, in the district's defense to that, we've been saying all along that the number of administrators that were there are correct. We've been disputing that those numbers were accurate.
You've been disputing the DOE numbers.
We've been saying that according to the student counts and the teacher counts, the way that the administrators are calculated, you know, we have the right number of administrators. So when you go through the schools and you look at how many principals, how many assistant principals and such are scattered throughout the district, those numbers are...
Is there a record of the first time you notified the Department of Education that their numbers are wrong?
As I say, Pat, I'm here from the referendum committee, so I don't deal with the Department of Education. That's a district issue. That's why they got the letter today. I don't know when they reached out to them specifically, but it
seems odd that the district would just leave that information up there, keep sending people to it, and then the day before an election repudiate it.
Well, I think that with any governmental agency, you have to work through the process. The fact that we were able to get it corrected at all is a good thing, and it means a step in the right direction. And as we've talked about, as we've talked about, there are certainly ways, and I think that in my conversations with various district personnel relative to this, after this referendum is passed, they certainly intend to sit down with the State Department of Education and look at not only how Brandywine codes administrator positions and other positions, but other districts throughout the state, because everybody doesn't do it the same way.
No. Wait, we've talked about this before, too, during the Christina referendum and some others, and I've said, look, they're hurting themselves by not being transparent. If you have these codes written in such a way that they're different from district to district, and if you have consultants, people say, oh, my God, we're wasting millions of dollars on consultants. Yeah, but these consultants are speech therapists and specialized English teachers and things like that. Then they need to tell people, because otherwise people say you guys are wasting money and throwing money away. And you know, I would reiterate the question that Pat had for you, James, is, you know, why, if you guys been saying for all this time that we've got 59 administrators, not 89 administrators at DOE, why not push for that, and why would that still be on the Brandywine website?
Well, again, we did not have an exact number. What the school district's position was, and continues to be, is that we are within the unit count for the proper number of administrators in the district. Whatever that number is, when you take how many students we have, how many teachers that gives us, and that gives you a count on administrators. We have always held that we were within the proper unit count, that we weren't top-heavy in administrators.
But they do it the day before the referendum.
Well, that's when the Department of Elections got the letter to us,
Yeah.
or Department of Education got the letter to us. Would I have liked to have had this, months ago before Pat even did his
tell me why,
video? Sure,
tell me why they will not come back 3 or 4 months from now or during the summer and say, oh, no, we were wrong, it is 89.
Well, because I think that the Department of Education has looked at those specific positions that are coded as such and acknowledged that those are not administrators.
Let's get to Greg in Wilmington. It's 302-478-9335, and this program really is a referendum on all referenda. I mean, this the kind of thing that happens around the state. And I think what comes out of these conversations is expectations people have for transparency more than anything else. Hey, Greg, you're on the Rick Jensen Show, and you got James Hanby and Pat Wahl.
Hey, thanks. That's a great lead-in. First of all, I was thinking about this today. The referendum, so it raises our taxes 12%, as I understand it. Actually, when I calculate it, it looks more like 13. But what I want to say is, just by the fact that home values go up automatically, there shouldn't be an increase because the homes themselves are always increasing and adjusting for inflation.
Go ahead, James.
Thanks, Rick. That is one of the fallacies, and it's the issue with trying to discuss referendums and helping people understand. The fact is that's 28 cents on $100 of assessed value. It has been years since Newcastle County has reassessed property. So the tax rate doesn't go up every year based on what your property is worth. It goes up based on what it is back in 1983 or whenever the last time the district or the county reassessed. And so those are not accurate numbers. You look at the average home being somewhere around $72,000 in value. That house might be in reality on the market today for $300,000 or $400,000.
So that's why you have lawmakers looking at rolling reassessments, and the way that would work around the state is that when you sell your house, it'll be reassessed at different, current market value, and instead of having an assessment of $78,000. It would be assessed at the $320,000, and the taxes would thus go up, without having to spend millions of dollars of having appraisers go all over the place and do that as well. All right, so 302-478-9335. Get to Jackie in Wilmington. James is for the referendum, and Pat is against it. Jackie, you're on the Rick Jensen Show.
Hi, I just want to reach out and point out and let us all remember that there are 11,000 students in the Brandywine School District. This shouldn't be personal. This is about the kids' education, which both gentlemen you have on the show know that Brandywine has an excellent education, and my children are receiving that also. And I'm proud that they go here, and I hope that voters will reach out. Costs go up. We don't have like other states where it goes up a little bit each year. I don't like the process of a referendum, but it's all that we have right now, and I hope that people vote yes. Because it is definitely, I don't think, if we look at the actual numbers, we do know that this referendum is needed.
Jackie, are you a school district employee?
I work for the Right Clay School District. I do not work for Brandywine School District.
Do you have kids in the Brandywine School District?
Yep, I got 2 of them.
Okay. I just want to know. Thank you very much. So 302-478-9335. Get to Jason in North Wilmington. Jason, you're on with James and Pat.
Hi, how are you?
They're peachy. What's your question?
I'd complain, but who'd listen?
Yeah.
Yeah, first I just wanted to commend both of the folks that are on there. I think that the referendum has really become a hostile battle, and I appreciate both of their respect for each other. I think that was that's notable. But so I live in North Wilmington. I have 2 kids currently in the district, and we love our schools, and literally haven't met anybody in them. Teachers, administrators, support staff that hasn't been excellent. And I'll just say I do have no involvement in the district other than being a concerned parent and choosing to be as educated as I could on this process this time around and how it affects us. But, I've attended a bunch of meetings and said the same thing. I believe that we have an obligation to our community to make sure that this passes. I moved from New Jersey just a few years ago and saw an almost 50% decrease in my taxes for a similar sized home. And I think that we have a much better community, and I think that one of the precipitating factors of our community being as strong as it is how strong our public school system is.
All right, man, I appreciate that. And by the way, I don't want the bar to be New Jersey. Seriously. People say that, oh, the taxes are so much less. Yeah, let's keep it that way. When we come back, I want to revisit with Pat on why he thinks you should vote no. Tomorrow, in the Brandywine 100, North Delaware, referendum, Brandywine School Districts. Something unusual we'll get to next half hour. It's a combination of capital and operating. But Pat Wahl is here, and he's opposed to it, and we've had so many phone calls, people supporting it, that even if the reverse were true, I'd be going to James saying, hey, everyone's against it. Remind us or give us a reason why you think people should vote against it, Pat.
Again, I'm not here to tell people so much how to vote. I'm here to say something's wrong. Something is wrong when the district schedules parent events at every school, most every school in the district, just so happens to be on referendum day, a parent event everywhere. That's not a fair election. And I've heard numerous things since posting my video. The latest story is the most disturbing. On Thursday of last week at 3 o'clock, students and teachers walked across the street from Springer to the Sunrise Assisted Living Center for a scheduled talk at 3 o'clock, which was posted on their daily calendar that's posted on the elevator in the facility. It said, students talk about referendum. The students and teachers were there to talk about the referendum and how important it is that it pass because the student programs would be cut. They brought absentee ballots with them for the residents. Now, this is not a senior center. This is an assisted living center. Most of the residents there have dementia. Most of them can't sign a consent for themselves. Now, remember, in a referendum, you don't need to be a registered voter. You only have to be a resident.
Right.
If you say you care about kids, then show that. Look what those kids from Springer are being taught about character, because if there's one thing that I care about more than education, it's character. Something's wrong.
All right, let's get to calls at 302-478-9335. We go to Jim in North Wilmington. Jim, you're on with James and Pat.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for taking my call. I'm voting no again for the second time, and I support public education. I don't mind paying my part. That's one of the letter pieces that came out last week. This is not a tax, it's a referendum. I mean, we're starting to act like Congress is, double standard. The thing is, that bothers me, I will support anything to educate the children. One of my neighbors told me my children have been out of school for years, and it seems that you and I went to parochial school, so we know mom sets the paper towels and things. We know that, or this is public. But the thing that gets me, not to take more of my time, is we're talking about vote for this to get better education to the kids. We're talking about demolition of buildings. We're talking about high-back systems, security systems. That ain't education. That's the added extras that we need. Why isn't that coming from the government, the other part of the government, and also why aren't they going out getting grants?
All right, we don't have much time. I'll get to James on this before I take a break here. James?
Sure, Rick. That is part of the capital referendum ask, and out of that, 60% of those costs is coming from the state government. About 40% of it comes from the districts. And the reason that is not, again, as we talked earlier off air, that's not a separate thing is because older tax bonds are being paid off. And so as they're paid off, our cost is going down. And so you won't see your tax bill go up for the capital side. And so, we are using other funds for that.
All right, James and Pat, when we come back, more on the Brandywine School District referendum. And a question I have is, hey, you had an 18-cent per $100 referendum recently. That project is over. It's done. Why not just apply that money to this one? Keep it here. Hopefully, one of these guys will have an answer. Taxes going up about 12%. One guy said he figured out his are at 13%. It's another school referendum, this time Brandywine. In studio on the Rick Jensen Show, we have Pat Wahl who's against the referendum, saying, you know what, there's something wrong here. And we have James Hanby, who says, oh, no, we got to do this for the kids. Now, at the end of our conversation at 3:30, these guys are out, and Mark Holodick, the superintendent for Brandywine School District, is coming in, and he'll take your calls as well. 302-478-9335. I want to first address to James the question I asked before the news, and that's this. You had an 18 cent per 100 for capital improvements, and I think it was operational as well at some point.
There were no capital improvements.
It was all operational?
It was all operational.
Okay, so why not just use that money?
Well, the operational referendum that passed in 2012 was for specific programs that the community said they wanted. This included adding some elementary sports, such as a hugely successful basketball sports program that went not only for the teams, but they had cheerleading squads and they had pep bands and got all of the elementary schools really involved in that. In addition, it went to adding extra programs after school in the middle schools and the elementary schools, and so your various different clubs and things that people wanted to have. In addition, it paid for some safety improvements and some ongoing things that the district wanted to do. It also added interventionists because that's what the public said, that we want interventionists in each school. And so we added interventionists in all of the elementary schools. But those positions are paid for by 100% district dollars, and that cost continues because they're still employed and they will be employed next year, considering so long as this referendum
What
passes.
evidence is there that the interventionists are having a positive effect in the schools?
I think that the clearest evidence would be in talking with the principals and how much they feel they assist them in their duties and how much they would really be under the gun and added workload if they didn't have them helping the students.
Pat, do you have anything to say about that?
I'll wait for the next question.
Let's do that. Let's get to who's first up there, Greg? We're going to get to Eric in Newark at 302-478-9335. Eric, you're on the Rick Jensen Show. You got Pat and James. Go for it.
Hey, Rick. Yeah, got a lot of questions, but I know we won't get through them all. That intervention thing that just came up, we had somebody go through the budget and found that support services, contract services, up $100,000, 400% from 2015. Intervention is up $250,000. That's 83% increase from last year. So without whatever proof you were looking for, that seems like a pretty. But one of the things you were talking about earlier is how many administrators and so forth each district is assigned based on the kids they have in the schools. And somebody going through the budget came up that there's a $1.6 million increase in salary expense from local funds. This despite the fact that it appears the state got just over $1 billion in salaries from the child nutrition portion of the budget. Not to get in the weeds on that child nutrition part, but the way I understand it is that the state says, okay, you got this many kids, you got this many schools, so therefore you're going to get this many administrators and teachers, and this is what each one of them is to be paid. But then the local school district can go ahead and pay them more out of local funds, which is what the taxpayers pay for. So, for example, last week was that Mark Hollis, yes, his salary, according to the state, should be about $195,000, and then the local school district came along and gave another $51,000. So I'm wondering with James, how much of the Brandywine budget, at least currently, is
what?
Is extra money.
Extra money from, okay, how much of all this money is actually extra money from the local? And James, do you have that number? Pat?
I don't have an exact number, but the budget, what happens with your teachers and your administrators and such, the state pays a percentage and the local district pays a percentage. Specifically, if you're talking, he brought up Dr. Holodick's salary. He served for 6.5 years as our superintendent. Prior to that, in a very short interim, we went through 6 superintendents. He came in at the exact same salary as the previous superintendent that left for another district in Pennsylvania for a whole lot more money. And the other thing that you want to look at with that is that the other superintendents throughout the state, when you're trying to compare apples to apples, everything that Dr. Holodick gets is entirely in that budget amount. He doesn't get a car. He doesn't get an expense account. All those things are included. The other superintendents have those things. They're kind of hidden in their budgets.
Okay, I want to ask Eric
he doesn't have
one
a
more
transportation allowance?
It's all included in his salary.
Well, but it's listed as a transportation allowance.
It's all included in his salary, though.
Is there a separate line item for transportation allowance?
I saw that published, but maybe it's a mistake.
Eric, I got one more question for you. Would you say the state has determined Holodick's salary should be $195,000? What's that based on?
That was based on information I got from somebody that works with the Department of Education down there in Dover. So I've been trying.
Based on what, though?
Based on however they figure out how much each person is supposed to make. Each position is supposed to make.
All right, let's move on, because I'm not getting any solid answer there, I don't think. Let's get to Peggy in Wilmington, 302-478-9335. Hey, Peggy.
Hi, I'm a retired elementary school teacher from the Brandywine District, and my question originally was going to be about the interventionists, but that was kind of already touched upon, and I guess it is true that they'll be eliminated if the referendum doesn't pass. As a former teacher, I can tell you that is a very important position and one that we all really appreciated. So since that was answered, my other comment is that last week I attended a town hall meeting at Brandywine High School, and I'd just like to recommend to people listening, if they're interested in this referendum vote in the future, they really need to attend one of those 4 meetings, because there was so much information given. And a lot of people are getting on the radio and having a lot of misconceptions and wrong numbers. And if you attend those meetings, you'll be very well informed.
I appreciate that. And people will say, well, wrong numbers, right numbers. I've been to meetings like this in the past, not on this one, other ones, and I find that the school district will have certain numbers, and then other people will be going through the Department of Education numbers and say, wait, that's not always accurate. In fact, even today we find out the Department of Education was wrong on some of their data. Yeah, Pat.
I attended all 4 town meetings, and I'm more confused than ever.
Yeah.
But for example, today the News Journal states Brandywine has $174 million budget for the next school year, but will have to slash $8 million if the referendum doesn't pass, according to Superintendent Mark Holodick. At the town hall meetings, Dr. Holodick repeatedly said there is no budget, which begs the question, then how can there be a deficit? But let's assume this is accurate. There's a $174 million budget, and for some reason he has to slash $8 million if the referendum doesn't pass. There were $186 million in revenue last year, revenue that's, to my knowledge, not expected to decrease just because taxes are not increased. Now, don't misunderstand. I understand things happen and costs raise, and there may indeed have to be some sort of cuts. Maybe there should be some sort of cuts, but I don't know why we're facing this apocalypse. If leadership is doing such a great job, why are we facing this apocalypse? And how come at none of the meetings were we ever informed about Senate Bill number 175, Section 309, available on the Delaware legislative site, that talks about money from the state available to districts should 2 referendums fail. Now, I understand that this money would not be the same amount as if the referendum passed, but it would certainly help stave off this doomsday thing. And that's what I don't get. This doomsday stuff makes no sense to me when I look at all the numbers.
James?
Well, I think that the key point to remember is that if you attended the meetings, or you attended the school board meetings, and you looked at the cash flow analysis that's done each month, the year-end balance for local funds is actually approximately $5.1 million. Some people look at that and say that's a surplus. Some people want to call it $12 million, but the actual local dollars is about $5.1 million. We get a little bit of money in over the summer, but that money has to run the district until the first bunch of money comes in from the Newcastle County for taxes for this year. So you need about $8 million or so for that. So between the money that we have left over at June 30th, the money that comes in the summer, in all of the documents that have been done all year long, show a negative approximately 1.9. Now, we hope to lower that to 1.7, but you're already starting out in the hole, I guess is the point.
By 2017.
Right. No, this would be
you'd have that
fiscal
money
year 2017, because you're talking about September.
Hey, here's what I'd like you to address this. As Pat mentioned, last year you had $186 million in revenue, and you've got a budget of $174. why is this
James,
all?
are you talking about a cash flow issue
So why
or a
is
deficit?
The local dollars, as Pat knows from the meetings, the local dollars after you take out fixed costs are about $66.1 million that you're looking at, that you're dealing with there. And so we're talking about local dollars. We're not talking about state dollars. When you look at those June 30th balances and you're looking at $12.7 million, that includes federal money. The federal budget year is different than ours, so it goes through September 30th. So there's a lot of federal money left, but those can't be spent on the local items. Then there's a number of other restricted amounts that are in there. So it is a cash flow thing, and it goes back to really
So it's a cash flow thing, not a deficit.
It is a deficit because as you go, the deficit grows.
But
if you don't fix
the month after September is when all your cash comes in.
It does, but then next year that would be that much larger because you're taking from next year's dollars to fix that, and then the following year it's even larger unless you raise taxes and bring in more revenue.
All right, when we come back, we'll get to Ed in Wilmington. Your calls as well as we wrap up James versus Pat on the Brandywine School District's referendum. It's going to be tomorrow night. And, I gotta say, the numbers don't seem so dramatically bad until you look 2 years out. And then you realize, wow, yes, there's a drop. So for James' argument. But for Pat, I got to tell you, the whole idea of having all these events at schools, telling people to vote for the referendum, kind of sleazy. Hang on, we'll be back. Tomorrow night, Tuesday night. Actually, Tuesday pretty much all day, isn't it? You guys have the referendum starting
10 to 8.
At 10 o'clock in the morning, don't you? I don't know why I keep saying tomorrow night. I guess because most people vote at night, but really 10 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. Brandywine School District referendum, 28 cents per $100. It's about a 12% increase, a couple $100 a year on average. In studio, James Hanby, who supports it. Pat Wahl says, nope, there's something wrong. And Ed in Wilmington is on 302-478-9335. Ed, you're on.
Hi, I would just like to make a comment regarding my own personal experience with the Brandywine School District, if I may. Back in 2009, I lost my job, and for whatever reason, my daughter couldn't get to the school that she wanted. So we more or less threw ourselves on the mercy of the Brandywine School District, and had the good fortune to meet Mark Holodick, who, by the way, when we went to the school, he was at Concord at that time. His door was closed, and he happened to overhear what we had to say, and opened the door and helped my daughter. And over the course of the 4 years at Concord, she went on to graduate 17th in her class, is now at the University of Delaware with scholarship money, and will this summer work for the Christiana care system. Without the help from the Brandywine School District, it could have turned out vastly different. So my point is that over the last year, I struggled, haven't been on a vacation in that time, and don't plan on going on vacation, but I am going to vote for that referendum because if someone can open the door for a nobody like myself to help someone's child, for that couple $100 or whatever it is for me, I think these people at the Brandywine School District, whether we know it or not, are going out of the way to help our kids. In the grand scheme of things, wherever the money's going, I don't care about salaries or anything like that, but I know that every time that we've called the school district in the time that's passed since 2009, typically not an administrator, but Mark Holodick would get back to us. I don't care how much money he makes or...
Gotcha. I got to cut you off there. It's an emotional decision there. It's it doesn't matter because it helped you and your daughter. Let's get to last call, Marty in Wilmington. Marty.
Yes, hi, Rick. I'm just wondering, Mr. Wahl keeps mentioning something is wrong. I wonder what something means.
Okay. Pat?
I think I gave several examples already, such as the students and teachers walking over from Springer to the Sunrise Assisted Living Facility with absentee ballots. I find that disturbing. I don't know how you feel.
Okay. I'm going to give each you guys 1 minute. We got about 2 minutes left, right? Okay, so Pat, why don't you give us a wrap-up here on your thoughts on the referendum tomorrow?
first of all, the Brandywine School District has wonderful people. We even have the best buildings. The P.S. DuPont former high school, now middle school, is unbelievable. I'm awestruck whenever I'm there. So I can't say it. We all care about the Brandywine School District. We all care about kids. I care about all kids. I care about kids at private and parochial schools whose families are scraping together every penny they have to afford them. We need to watch over how our money is spent. We can't just give people a blank check when they say it's for the kids and then just expect them to give back whatever money we need back.
All right, James Hanby.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks for having us on. Thanks to Pat for being here. Just in closing, as a product of the district, as someone who has been actively involved in the district, has attended most every board meeting over the last 4 years, and have heard what these dedicated volunteers to serve on the Board of Education and our dedicated staff members that work at the Brandywine School District have accomplished, is reason enough for me to say vote for the referendum on May 17th.
James Hanby along with Pat Wahl. Coming up after the news, Superintendent Mark Holodick. Keep it here.